Good morning, muy buenos días. Welcome. Welcome to the University at Albany. To all of you, thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for taking your time to come from across the state of New York, from across the nation, and from Puerto Rico. Welcome to the University at Albany, and welcome to RISE 2019. A mis compañeros y compañeras de la Isla del Encanto, muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros en esta conferencia tan importante. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a su casa, y como dice la canción, Borinquen vive, vive Borinquen. I've personally been looking forward to this day for some time now. Today is the realization of a strong desire to build upon a significant gathering that took place in Mayagüez, Puerto Rico in June of 2018, 9 months after Hurricane Maria struck. This was a time when the island was still reeling from the devastating impacts of one of the deadliest and costliest hurricanes in Puerto Rico's and the United States history. Out of this gathering, the RISE platform was born. Today, we embark on a new chapter of this work. Today, we are realizing the dream that we can significantly build upon the strong foundation that was built last year in Mayagüez, Puerto Rico. And we do so with you, with all of you. Today, our participants include more than 400 people. Just look around you, representing about 175 institutions and organizations across the United States and Puerto Rico, including colleges and universities, government, local, statewide, and federal, nonprofit organizations, industry and business, research centers, community, and the media. This includes over 35 sponsoring institutions and organizations, over 100 colleges and universities. Please take a look at your conference program on page 60 for a full and amazing list of these institutions and organizations. Also, page 64 and 65 of the program includes the list of sponsors that made this conference possible, ranging from our RISE 2019 sponsors, including the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Coastal Resilience Center, to our gold, our silver, bronze, and sustaining partners. The financial support of these organizations was critical to the success of RISE 2019. Thank you all for your support, and let's give our sponsors a round of applause. The group of RISE 2019 participants represents an extraordinary array of disciplines. In addition to prominent higher education leaders, over 180 speakers and panelists are scholars and experts in emergency preparedness, public policy, atmospheric science, environmental sciences, social sciences, linguistics, and engineering, among other fields and professions. This is critical because the complex challenges of this work require input and expertise from a very broad coalition of partners. I must say that I am also very ecstatic that there are dear colleagues here and friends with us today from my 3 former institutions, the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, the University of Delaware, and the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. How neat is that? And so over the next 3 days, we're going to embark on a journey to explore how we can collectively create a better future for communities that experience disasters or are at risk of experiencing disasters, and the critical role of institutions of higher education in this process. This brings me to what is the most important responsibility for me this morning, and that is to recognize some of the people who have helped us reach this moment and who are going to continue to be critical drivers in this work after RISE 2019 concludes on Wednesday. As the 20th president of the University at Albany, my name is Havidán Rodríguez, and I am very, very pleased to recognize the two leaders and co-chairs of RISE 2019, Dr. Marla Pérez Lugo and Dr. Cecilio Ortiz García. Both Marla and Cecilio are faculty members at the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, and are senior fellows at the National Council for Science and the Environment. In addition to convening the gathering last year, Marla and Cecilio have been dreaming big about how to take RISE to the next level. Again, let's give Cecilio and Marla a round of applause. And I know that their energy and focus found a willing partner in the National Council for Science and Environment. And I want to thank NCSC, and especially its Executive Director, Michelle Wyman, who has been a strong advocate and supporter of this RISE 2019. NCSC has really played a critical role in this process. So Michelle, thank you so very much. We sincerely appreciate the support and engagement of the members of the Honorary Committee. Also, the Steering Committee was absolutely essential in the planning, development, and implementation of this wonderful conference. Will the members of the Honorary and Steering Committees please rise and be recognized? I would certainly be remiss if I did not recognize the strong commitment and the excellent work with very positive outcomes of the SUNY Puerto Rico Task Force. Also, thanks to all the SUNY institutions represented here today through their senior administrators, faculty, staff, and students, you have done critical work in Puerto Rico. So muchísimas gracias to you as well. And to our many faculty, staff, and students at UAlbany, at SUNY, at CUNY, and throughout the country, including Puerto Rico, who for the past 2 years have been part of our rebuilding and reconstruction efforts in Puerto Rico. And I know some of you are here today. Your contributions and experiences have been a critical part of the development of this platform, and your ongoing participation in these conversations are invaluable. And the role of NGOs, community organizations, and federal, state, and city organizations, some represented here today, were also critically important in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. And then for today, there's the team at UAlbany who accepted the challenge to organize this very significant event, and their continued and ongoing work to make today possible has truly been exceptional. Our Division of Research, under the leadership of Vice President for Research, Jim Diaz, led the way. But a very special thank you and recognition goes to Vince Delio, Tianan Juan, Kyla Whitehouse, along with Abinay Tiwari and Ujash Darman Modi. This has been for them an almost 24/7 project for the past few months, and their work has been simply outstanding. Vince, to you and your staff, thank you so very much. And when you go back home, you will always be expecting an email from Vince. So I would also like to thank the Albany Office of the President, the Office of University Events, the Office of Communications and Marketing, Information Technology, our facilities staff, and our campus center staff, Sodexo, and so many others that will make these 3 days entirely a successful event for RISE 2019. And again, let's give them a round of applause. We usually wait to the end of these conferences to thank everybody, and half of the people are already gone. So it's important to recognize all these folks at the beginning of the conference so that you can provide your enthusiastic thank you when you see them. And special thanks also goes to someone who has been the driving force in the state of New York behind the extraordinary efforts and commitments to the people of Puerto Rico in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, and that is our governor, Governor Andrew Cuomo. The governor is not able to join us today, but he sends his greetings and well wishes, and he has done an extraordinary work in our initiative, New York Stands with Puerto Rico, disseminating resources and efforts and time and staff to work with the people in Puerto Rico to help during the recovery process. So to Governor Andrew Cuomo, our very special thanks. We also want to recognize another champion for our work in Puerto Rico, a great colleague and exceptional friend, the Chancellor of the City University of New York, Dr. Felix Rodríguez Matos. He will be joining us tomorrow, but his strong commitment to this initiative is also critically important to highlight. And so while I'm here, let me also give a shout out to all the CUNY faculty, staff, and students who join us today. The SUNY CUNY Puerto Rico partnerships were instrumental and had a significant impact in New York Stands with Puerto Rico recovery and reconstruction efforts, as I said, spearheaded by the governor. And we as New Yorkers are also very proud to have strong commitment and dedication from the nation's largest comprehensive system of public higher education, the State University of New York. And this brings me to the introduction of our next speaker, SUNY Chancellor Kristina Johnson. Chancellor Johnson has been a nationally leading advocate of post-Maria recovery efforts, playing a key role in the governor's New York Stands with Puerto Rico initiative and convening the SUNY Puerto Rico Task Force, which I am honored to co-chair along with SUNY Maritime President Michael Alfutis. Chancellor Johnson has been at the vanguard of these efforts nationally and internationally, committing SUNY's resources and expertise to play a positive and impactful role in Puerto Rico's recovery. Señoras y señores, ladies and gentlemen, it is now my pleasure to welcome to the podium Chancellor Kristina Johnson.
Well, good morning, and thank you. Yes, good morning, President Rodríguez, for setting just the right tone for RISE 2019. And kudos to you, your team, and the co-chairs of this conference for using the convening power of the Academy to facilitate this necessary, important, and timely conversation. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, we have an extraordinary opportunity to focus the power of higher education on preparing for and recovering from natural and man-made disasters. And by the power of higher education, I'm speaking about our most valuable resource, you, our faculty, students, staff, and academic leaders who commit their time and expertise to study and develop best practices to help our communities when they are in crisis and are most vulnerable. We all remember where we were when the devastating hurricanes of 2017 hit the U.S. mainland, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. Hurricane Harvey had inundated Houston on August 25, 2017. A little less than 2 weeks before I was to start my new job as Chancellor of the State University of New York, I called the chairman of the board at the time, H. Carl McCall, and our conversation quickly turned immediately to what could we do to help the citizens and fellow colleagues in Texas. I reached out to the chancellor of the UT system, who was Bill McCraven at the time, and asked him what they needed. He said they needed water and blankets. From there were more calls with SUNY staff and an email from Admiral Michael Alfoltis, president of SUNY Maritime, who told me he had a large vessel, the Empire State 6, that could carry 600 cadets and supplies to Houston. Now, I knew we had 64 campuses, 1.2 million students, 90,000 faculty and staff, and a national laboratory, but who knew we had a big ship? And then I got a call from President Rodríguez. President Rodríguez said that he had a College of Emergency Preparedness, Homeland Security, and Cybersecurity. What resources from such an incredible system we could bring to bear? So what does a chancellor do when two presidents call? You immediately appoint them to do something, which is what I did. And they were wildly enthusiastic. And I appointed President Alfoltis and Rodríguez to co-chair the SUNY Puerto Rico Response Task Force. But we didn't know yet that Maria was going to pummel Puerto Rico. Together, though, we started to work before the task force was formed to come up with a plan which included a fundraiser to collect donations to buy water, blankets, and non-perishable food items and fuel to power the Empire State 6 to Houston. Governor Cuomo asked FEMA to activate the ship, which happened on September 1st. We raised $30,000 to purchase pallets of water and blankets that were delivered to the Bronx and loaded onto the ship. I started as chancellor on September 5th, and the Empire State 6 set sail for Houston on September 9th. However, on September 10th, Hurricane Irma hit the Florida Keys, redirecting the ship to help with the rescue efforts there. And then Hurricane Maria made landfall, devastating Puerto Rico on September 20th, the strongest storm to impact the island in 90 years. And the Empire State 6 was once again redirected at the behest of Governor Cuomo, reaching out to FEMA, and it moored off the shore of San Juan. That put us on a course that brings us here today, a little more than 2 years later. Governor Cuomo's call to action, recovery, and to help rebuild the island, Puerto Rico, was answered by all of you in this room, working through your respective institutions, CUNY, SUNY, and across the country, and we are very grateful. So you see, our rescue mission was a collective, collaborative effort that used every relevant SUNY resource that could be of service, with our students playing a critical role of support, along with our faculty, administrators, and state government officials. In fact, a huge shout out to our students, because when the Empire 6 sailed again for Puerto Rico just a few months later, there were 500 student volunteers from SUNY Maritime, University at Albany, and SUNY ESF on board as part of the initial rebuilding effort. Thank you. We then sent 250 students over an 8-week period of time in the summer of 2018, joined by more than 250 students from CUNY. And this past summer, we came back again. SUNY and CUNY together deployed another 500 students to Puerto Rico to continue the work. New York State, under Governor Cuomo's leadership, is committed to helping Puerto Rico recover and rebuild after the devastating hurricane. In fact, the governor has taken 6 different trips to Puerto Rico since Hurricane Maria to give his help and to personally assess what more needs to be done. President Rodríguez, President Alfoltis, and I joined the SUNY and CUNY students in Puerto Rico, swinging sledgehammers and helping rebuild homes destroyed by the hurricane. And we deployed solar panels and battery storage at a local community right near the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, so that when and if another hurricane takes down the power grid, that town will have a place where citizens can go and charge their phones and get information about the recovery efforts. So here's why, in my view, we're here today, because when a disaster strikes, you don't have the luxury of time to figure out what needs to be done and in what order. And there's a really interesting article, I don't have time now in this presentation to go into it, but it's by Peter Pronovost, who was at Hopkins, where I was provost. He talks about the power of the checklist. And he developed a checklist so that when someone is found under the ice, that they actually can be revived even if they've been underwater for 45 minutes. But it's a specific number of things that have to be done in the right order immediately. And that's what we're here today to come up with, those emergency response protocols and procedures that will help us recover, because in the first few minutes of disaster, being timely and doing things in the right order is very important. And we must do so urgently. You know, climate change is here, and we are all on a trajectory of further catastrophe. What we saw in Puerto Rico is not an aberration. And I just wanted to say that SUNY is stepping up. One of the first two initiatives as Chancellor, we put us on a path, us being SUNY, as the largest higher education system in the country, to procure 100% of our electricity from non-carbon sources as soon as possible. And we put out the first RFP to do phase 1. And all new buildings will be designed to function as zero net carbon buildings going forward. Thank you. And you know, we couldn't do that without having the governor and the legislature behind us, so thank you. It's the collective brain trust in this room that we can develop, again, how to be proactive and anticipate these disasters and be better prepared for them. And since we're all in higher education, we recognize that the mission of the university is to pass on culture to the next generation. And it's exciting to me and to all of us to see so many students involved, because they will be living with and unfortunately experiencing the worst effects of climate change. And as witnessed by their participation in the recovery and rebuilding efforts, I know they are willing and ready to be part of the solution. By participating in RISE 2019, you will come away with ideas to bring back to your campuses and partner organizations about how we can better prepare ourselves and our communities for the impact of natural disasters and the speed and efficiency in which we can rebuild. Together, higher education can strengthen preparedness, response, and recovery efforts in the face of threats posed by a changing climate and extreme weather. I, for one, am looking forward to learning of the actionable outcomes from this conference and what I can do as Chancellor to help further your ideas. So again, thank you for attending RISE 2019, for your commitment to our shared responsibility in improving and reducing our global carbon footprint and creating a roadmap that will benefit generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Chancellor Johnson. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jorge Haddock-Acevedo, who is the president of the University of Puerto Rico system. The University of Puerto Rico has been a key partner in the SUNY Stands with Puerto Rico initiative. And a year or so ago, SUNY and the University of Puerto Rico signed an MOU to facilitate innovative academic and research collaborations. President, please.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. What a pleasure to be back. And I bring greetings from the community of the University of Puerto Rico. It's a great honor to represent my alma mater at such an important event. And I am pleased to welcome all of you to RISE 2019, Transforming University Engagement in Pre- and Post-Disaster Environments, Lessons from Puerto Rico. I'd like to start by acknowledging two of our own, the co-chairs, Dr. Marla Perez Lugo and Dr. Cecilio Ortiz García. Please stand up again. We can never thank them enough for their work. Marla is back there. So thank you. What a great success already. Hurricane Maria, as has been mentioned, touched our island September 20, 2017. And to put things in perspective, as has been said before, we have never had a hurricane of this magnitude, a disaster of this magnitude for over 80 years. So for most of the people on the island, they had never experienced anything like this. And you can imagine, by the way, in the interest of full disclosure, I was at the University of Massachusetts, Boston at the time. So I could see this from afar, but you can imagine that most of the effort was put into how to prepare for the storm, and not a lot of effort was put into how to recover from the storm. In addition to that, to put things in perspective, we get all these warnings all the time, and they don't always hit. So people were a little bit, and we had been hit 2 weeks before or so. So what are the chances that we're going to be hit again in such magnitude? So we were not prepared for after the disaster. So this opportunity we have here this week in this event, as it's been said also already, is to really start working on not only the preparation for this type of disasters, but the recovery of the disasters. So at the time you'll be seeing over the next 3 days how it destroyed homes, roads, and bridges, knocked out power across the entire island, and triggered heavy flooding. And more than 2 years after the storm, we're still in recovery mode in a lot of the island. My in-laws, for example, in their 80s, they had no electricity for over 3 months. And here we're in Boston, not being able to do much for them. The University of Puerto Rico community is very thankful for all the help received from more than 50 alliances with universities that offer help in more ways than you can imagine. And I've been touched and humbled about how many expressions of desire to assist us and to collaborate with us we have received, not only over the past 2 years, but even in the last 2 days that we've been here with you. So we're very thankful for that. We're very humbled by your sincere desire to support the island, even after 2 years later, but especially in being ready in the event that a disaster like this happens again. So a quick response to a teaching environment that allow our students to come to the state to finish their semester is just one of the examples in which we got so much support from the universities on the mainland. The humanitarian relief, as has been said before, and so on. So you're going to be hearing about some of the assistance that we have received already, but some of the things that we need to continue to do to be ready for future events. So thank you on behalf of the University of Puerto Rico and the island of Puerto Rico in general. The actions that were a quick response to serve our community with the disaster relief and disaster case management are some of the things that we will continue to discuss over the next three days. Probably the universities that offer the help and the ones that traveled to Puerto Rico didn't know exactly what they were doing in terms of the effect that they were going to have on the people of Puerto Rico in those days and far beyond. Everything has changed on the island. I came a year later to discover an island that has been changed in many ways. The mental health continues to be an issue. There's some of the infrastructure issues that continue to be an issue. But I think more importantly, and perhaps on the positive note, people have to become more entrepreneurial, and certainly the resiliency of the Puerto Ricans came to be showcased because we had to become not only more resilient, but more entrepreneurial. So that's perhaps is the positive side of the storm. To this end, our universities and colleges are extraordinarily well positioned to leverage our research and discovery to the assistance in the teaching and the workforce development and the community and public engagement missions to make a lasting impact on the fight against the impact of this type of disasters. That's why we believe that this RISE 2009 conference will open a national and international forum for excellence that brings together the key decision makers involved in the disaster preparedness of universities of higher education in the Americas to strengthen response and recovery efforts, exchange experiences, and prepare for the vision of the future for a more sustainable and resilient university. And this is how we come together to help universities manage the response to climate change related disasters. So I'm looking forward to being with you over the next few hours. I'd like to, before I sit down, I'd like to ask some of the key members of our committee to stand up, starting with our provost, Ubaldo Cordova. Please stand up in the back. Our provost and vice president and executive vice president for the university, Ubaldo Cordova. Those of you who wanted to to continue to talk about partnerships or to continue to further our partnerships. He is a key person. I'd like to point out our Chancellor, Glory V. Rosario. Where is Glory V? Our Chancellor, back there. And all the other members of the University of Puerto Rico community, please stand. So please make sure that you connect with one of them. Please, all of them stand up. University of Puerto Rico community members, please stand up. So for those of you who want to connect with us and do not have a chance to connect with me, given I'm a little bit outnumbered, that's the best joke I have all day, by the way. Those are the key people that you should connect over the next 3 days. So thank you again. Looking forward to spending the day with you.
Presidente Haddock-Acevedo, muchísimas gracias. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Patricia Fahy. And Patricia Fahy is an assembly member of the New York State Assembly. She represents the 109th Assembly District, which includes the University at Albany. She is a strong and very effective advocate for higher education as well as environmental sustainability initiatives. Pat is really a great friend to UAlbany and higher education. Please welcome Pat to the podium.
Buenos dias. Good morning. Wonderful to be here. What a turnout. What an amazing start. I must start with a congratulations to all of University of Albany for hosting this extraordinary forum and conference, but a special shout out to Havidán Rodríguez, the president. It seems like you've already been here a dozen years. I have to say you're doing so much. And to the Chancellor for always supporting the best of causes, Chancellor Kristina Johnson, and all of those who are participating. And a shout out to our governor. I have to say, it has been remarkable what he has done to champion, especially given the vacuum or given the ignoring of the needs of Puerto Rico at the national level from our president. Sorry to be so blunt. It has been truly remarkable and extraordinary that the governor has made sure that the state of New York has not forgotten our friends, our allies, and all of those in Puerto Rico and helping them to really recover. And I don't think we would be as far along if it were not the case. So big shout out, and also another congrats for being appointed the president of the Hispanic Leadership Institute as well. Great choice on the part of the governor. Resiliency. Today is so much about resiliency. It's actually, I think it's one of the most powerful terms that we could use. And I first heard it really in the context of education. A superintendent once said to me, you can't bully a resilient child. Well, it applies to certainly climate change, to building resiliency, but it applies to each of us as well. These are discouraging times. I just happened to get a flyer over the weekend, knowing I was coming here, a flyer from the Environmental Defense Fund, EDF, and they've said, in the face of danger, the dawn of hope. Face of danger, dawn of hope. In order to keep that hope, we all have to practice resiliency while we look at practicing it for the environment and preparing the environment. And just on that note, I just have to say, no community, while we're here to talk a lot about Puerto Rico, to talk a lot about some of the disasters around this country, I will say no community, no country, no state has been exempt from what we are seeing with weather-related disasters. Alaska hit 90 degrees for the first time just in the past year. Greenland lost 250 billion tons of ice. The Amazon rainforest had fires in 2 million acres. Obviously, the American Midwest, throughout upstate New York, we have seen flooding and the consequences of flooding. And then hurricanes. I don't need to name them. There's many, again, just this year, including Hurricane Dorian. And then California. Has any fire stopped burning there? And the earliest start ever to their fire season. So we know we have challenges. We have challenges throughout. We need an absolute multi-pronged attack in order to solve these issues, and I believe we can do it. I believe that you and conferences are like this are going to be at the front end of that and must lead the way, whether it is energy related, energy and the environment, whether it's transportation, whether it's tackling plastics, you name it. We need to recognize that it's not just pay now or pay later. The term is really we invest now. We invest or we pay later, and I get how hard that is. Many of you are in academia. Yes, I'm in politics, but we need your pressure to stay on us because it's 2019, and New York State just banned plastic bags earlier this year. Now, I'm really proud we've done it, but it took a lot of political will and political pressure to just ban plastic bags. I'm hoping we keep going, and I've got a few bills to keep banning more plastics. But the point is, it does take tremendous political will, especially to give the attention to our environmental justice communities, like right here in my backyard in Albany, but also in communities like Puerto Rico. There is so much we can do. Again, I think we all need to be future focused. I'll be back here on Friday. For those of you that want to extend your stay, I'll be back here on Friday for an artificial intelligence forum that we are doing here with the cooperation of President Rodríguez. And artificial intelligence, we're theming it. What is the future with artificial intelligence in addressing climate change, clean energy, and cybersecurity? They're all related, and it all moves in the same direction as what you're talking about here over the next few days. So please keep holding our feet to the fire. That's a very poor pun, and it was not intended. But I do believe we will rise together. This is an appropriately named conference. We will rise together, but we must be resilient together, and we must tackle this in every way in our own lives, let alone in the policies and the recommendations that we make coming forward out of this conference. So it is an honor to represent this university, an honor to work with so many of you, and again, a very heartfelt welcome to each of you. What you are doing matters. It matters for the future of this community, this country, and this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And our next speaker certainly needs no further introduction. The co-chair of RISE 2019, el Dr. Cecilio Ortiz García.
Buenos días. Good morning. What an honor to be sharing this great space. No barriers. The walls are all the way to the side. All just human beings in the middle of it. Since last night at the conference, we have been listening to presidents demonstrate themselves what leadership is all about. Yesterday, the president of the University of Minnesota told us at the conference about the grand challenges that that university has set out to tackle and conquer. Later on the night, I had the chance to speak to the dean of the School of Social Welfare here. And she also talked to me about the grand challenges that the field of social work is looking to tackle. And I wanted to ask you, as I say the word grand challenges, what things come to mind? What do you think these people told me that were the grand challenges for their universities and their disciplines? I'll tell you a few, and you tell me if you agree with your hand, okay? Water. Ooh, that's nice. Energy. That's even nicer. Poverty. Homelessness. Amazing. We have an amazing capacity as academics to compartmentalize, fragment, specialize, order, and set out to conquer the world. And we have been doing it for a long time. RISE is a recognition of that, but not as a pat in the back, but as a critical reflection. We have found a way to fragment ourselves disciplinarily. We are now thinking of interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinarity as ways to deal with that initial organizational structure. We have found a way to now look at wicked problems and say, no, we should be concentrating on issues. So the issues that you hear as grand challenges have taken the spotlight, but we didn't undo the initial fragmentation. We just threw some more at it. And here we go. And disasters are around us every day. From a child that is killed by a shooter in a neighborhood to a wildfire in Sonoma. And we have managed to lose track of the most important technological tool to help us move forward. And that is relationships. We have forgotten that no matter how much science we throw at these wicked issues, if the proper relationships are not there to support the sustainability of those efforts, we are not going anywhere. So, what is RISE? It's not an acronym. Sorry to disappoint. RISE is a paradigmatic change in the way we relate to each other and the way we relate to our communities in our own backyards. RISE is a paradigmatic change because it actually wants us to look at communities to understand what resiliency means. They are showing us every day in neighborhoods in Raleigh-Durham, in neighborhoods in Mariana, Puerto Rico, en Humacao, in neighborhoods in Duluth, Minnesota, and in neighborhoods in Albany, New York. They've been endowed with resilience from birth. And we're looking to construct resilience? What tools do we need to develop? What are the grand challenges? I challenge you to think that it's not energy. It's not energy transitions. It's not coastal resilience. No. is to be able to, in a fragmented world, in a polarized political world like we are living right now in this country, to be able to bring about two ideologies together and move forward on a path towards sustainability. That is a grand challenge. We have managed to do great things through STEM. In this room, I can count technological innovations from the University of Washington and Oregon State all the way down to UCF, and they're all here. We are all here. I just want you to ask yourself for the next 3 days, what can we do differently? Is it a STEM problem? Or is it a social science problem? Or is it a humanities problem? Let's reflect on the constant fragmentation in a world of the Anthropocene where resiliency is the governance of uncertainty. And let's turn it around. Let's listen to our communities about what resiliency is, how we can better organize to collaborate and not help, to humbly treat them as repositories of non-scientific knowledge and a lot of wisdom. Let's reorganize ourselves in a platform that will have your back in your community when you get hit like I was hit. Wouldn't you like to become a part of a community like that? That is the objective of this conference, to develop community in this room. That is our grand challenge, and that is the challenge that RISE is here to tackle on. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for accepting this humble invitation to join us in this quest for paradigmatic change within academia and along all sectors and all stakeholders that live with us in our landscapes of risk.
Excuse me, sorry.
Thank you very much, Cecilio. Very, very well said. It is only fitting that we conclude this section this morning with someone and an organization that has been instrumental to the success, to the emergence and success of RISE 2019. Michelle Wyman is the Executive Director of the National Council for Science and Environment. Michelle and NCSC are lead partner for RISE 2019, and we greatly appreciate her leadership and commitment to RISE 2019. Michelle, please join us at the podium.
Good morning, buenos dias. I just leaned over to my esteemed colleague, Cecilio, and said, "Why am I speaking after you?" So I invite all of you to share a bit of kindness with me this morning as I wrap up the opening session of RISE 2019. I know we have extended a lot of gratitude on this stage already. I'm going to do it one more time because, as Cecilio noted, community matters, relationships matter, and ultimately the human factor is such a strong determinant, if not the determinant, in successful outcomes. So thank you, President Rodríguez. Thank you so much, and the University at Albany, for supporting us, for hosting us, for partnering with us to have this event. We're so grateful. Thank you, Chancellor Johnson and the entire SUNY system. We look forward to continuing this work. Thank you, Jim Diaz and Vince Delio and the entire team here who have worked tirelessly to make RISE 2019 happen. And thank all of you who have journeyed here. I heard a number of times, and I mean no offense to any of you that are here in upstate New York at Albany, that November might not be the ideal time for an Albany destination. So thank you for making the journey from wherever you've come, particularly if it's a bit warmer there. I wanted to share briefly a bit about the organization that I have the privilege of working for, the National Council for Science and the Environment. The mission of our organization is to improve the scientific basis of environmental decision-making. And I'm going to say it again. It's simple to say, and it's really hard to do, to improve the scientific basis of environmental decision-making. It gets even trickier when you do this in a nonpartisan way. What does that mean? That means that NCSE, together with the community that we have the privilege of working with, deans and directors across the science enterprise from universities all over the country and increasingly all over the world, we stand strongly together behind science's truth, scientific integrity, on the issues that our world, our societies, the environment, and the planet as we know it face today. When someone calls me and says, "Michelle, do you believe in climate change?" I say, "I believe in climate science." I think the opportunity we have together right now is to take into account everything that we've already heard this morning, and to stack that up and understand not only what's at risk, but what's possible. This year alone, by September, 7 million people in the world were displaced by extreme weather events. Displaced, climate refugees. And how will we respond to that going forward? It will not only be an academic response, it will not only be a scientific response, nor a university response. It will be a community response, a human response. And so with that, I want to share one very, very personal story, which takes us all as we move out of this room and into sessions to a place of understanding of what's possible with just two human beings when they choose to be responsive. So forgive me, Cecilio and Marla, but I'm going to tell a bit of a personal story about the two of you. Right after Maria hit in September of 2017, before I even knew you, but I heard this a little bit later after I met you, you were standing in your house, fielding calls from allies, friends, community, people all over the world offering help, and trying to figure out in a very real way how you were going to make dinner for Sophia, where you would charge your cell phone, and how, in the good way that you do with your good nature, to say thank you so much for the offer of help. We do need reconstruction supplies. We do need food and water on the island. We don't know how to accept it. We don't know how, as academics, part of a university system, we can activate a response that takes advantage of all this help, that engages with our community, with Mayaguez, with the cities on the island. And as you can see through the different words you're hearing on stage, RISE means something different to every single person. For those of us that have been involved since the beginning, RISE for NCSE is actively looking for a way to take the science that you all are working on and sharing and making it accessible with the local governments that are first responders and can benefit so much from the evidence, the knowledge, the data, and the analysis that you provide, and to help those local governments, those communities, those states and regions understand that the university constellation can be an organized response mechanism immediately after disasters, during disasters, and also in the readiness process. Because keep in mind, with every extreme weather event, we learn not only what worked, but a whole lot of what we didn't know to know. And how do we unpack that? How do we explore it, learn from it, and then apply it next time around? The community that we are creating and will continue to grow with your help, your leadership, your time and your expertise, and your hearts through RISE, we hope will be double, triple, and at some point not able to even be held in this building. This is our opportunity as a university community to be inclusive, to reach out to city halls, to county seats, to state houses, and all the way upstream beyond, even when it feels like we're not invited. Remember the human factor and the spirit that we all bring to this work. I look forward to talking with you all, to working with you over the next 3 days and beyond. Thank you again so much for having us.